Summer Spellman, Harriet Bibby, deliberately puts herself in danger in Coronation Street soon, as she spirals in prison. The young woman became the prime suspect in Theo Silverton's, James Cartwright, murder investigation due to the fact Kit Green, Jacob Roberts, managed to work out that Summer owns the brooch that was found in Theo's flat. The theory that Summer killed Theo was fueled due to George Shuttleworth, Tony Maudsley, finding her journal. Inside, Summer had detailed her hatred of Theo and how she'd quite like to see the back of him. When Summer realized that she had become a suspect, she debated running away from Weatherfield to return to her university in America. There are a number of things that are stacking up against Summer and the story that she has told so far, Harriet Bibby previously said. When she knows that the police are potentially on her tail, I think she just isn't thinking logically and so decides that the best solution for that is for her to just run away. I think she needs to get out of the pressure cooker. Even without Theo's murder, the last few years on the street have been horrible and traumatic for Summer. Then to pile this on top, I think she just sort of explodes and isn't thinking logically and feels like she needs to run away. Summer is still in prison in upcoming episodes, wondering how on earth she's going to get out. Seemingly at a dead end, Summer tells Todd Grimshaw, Gareth Pierce, that it feels like her only option is to plead guilty to manslaughter. Later in the week, Todd takes a call from the prison and discovers that Summer has been admitted to hospital. There, Todd's heart breaks as he learns that Summer switched off her insulin pump and made herself ill because she cannot cope with life in prison. Back at home, Todd relays this to his friends in the pub, but someone is busy trying to mask their guilt at the same time. Could this be because they know something that proves Summer didn't kill Theo? The cobbles of Coronation Street had seen their fair share of drama over the years, but nothing could prepare residents for the terrifying events that unfolded on a warm summer evening when Summer Spellman's life hung in the balance. The day had started like any other. Summer was determined to put recent struggles behind her and focus on her future. She had spent the morning helping at the cafe before meeting friends in the afternoon. Despite putting on a brave face, those closest to her could tell something wasn't quite right. Billy noticed it first. "You look exhausted," he said gently as she sat at the kitchen table, barely touching her lunch. "I'm fine," Summer replied quickly. "Just tired." But Billy wasn't convinced. Summer's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her drink, and there was a pale look about her that he couldn't ignore. "You sure you're okay?" Summer forced a smile. "Honestly, I'm fine." Yet deep down, she knew she wasn't. Over the past few days, she had been feeling increasingly unwell. Dizzy spells had become more frequent, and she often felt weak without explanation. She convinced herself it was stress. With so much going on in her life, it seemed like the easiest explanation. That evening, Summer headed out to meet Nina and Asha. The trio planned to spend a relaxing evening away from the pressures of daily life. At first, everything seemed normal. They laughed, chatted, and enjoyed themselves. But as the evening progressed, Summer's condition worsened. "You're really pale," Asha said with concern. "I just need some air." Summer stood up suddenly, but the world around her spun violently. The ground seemed to shift beneath her feet. "Summer!" Nina jumped up as Summer staggered forward. For a moment she tried to steady herself, but her legs gave way completely. She collapsed onto the pavement. Panic erupted instantly. "Call an ambulance!" Nina shouted. A small crowd gathered as Summer lay unconscious. Asha knelt beside her, desperately trying to wake her. "Summer! Can you hear me?" There was no response. The seconds felt like hours. When paramedics finally arrived, their expressions immediately alarmed those watching. One paramedic checked her pulse while another prepared emergency equipment. "What's happening?" Asha asked tearfully. "We need to get her to hospital immediately." The word sent fear rippling through everyone present. News spread across Weatherfield within minutes. Billy's phone rang while he was tidying up at home. As soon as he heard the words "summer" and "hospital," his heart nearly stopped. What happened? She collapsed. Billy dropped everything and rushed out the door. Todd received the same devastating call. Together they raced toward the hospital, terrified of what they might find. Meanwhile, doctors worked frantically in the emergency department. Summer remained unconscious. Monitors beeped steadily around her bed as medical staff tried to determine what had caused her sudden collapse. One doctor frowned at the test results. "Her condition is more serious than we initially thought." "What do you mean?" asked a nurse. "She's critically ill." Outside the treatment room, Billy paced nervously. Every passing minute increased his fear. Todd sat nearby, equally worried. Neither could shake the horrible feeling that something was terribly wrong. Eventually, a doctor approached. Billy immediately stood. "How is she?" The doctor's face was serious. "She's stable for now, but her condition remains critical." Billy felt his stomach drop. "What caused this?" "We're still investigating. She suffered a significant medical episode, and we're running additional tests." "Can we see her?" The doctor nodded. Briefly. As they entered the room, Billy struggled to hold back tears. Summer looked so fragile lying in the hospital bed. Machines surrounded her. A monitor tracked every heartbeat. An oxygen tube rested beneath her nose. For a moment, Billy barely recognized the vibrant young woman who had brought so much joy into his life. He took her hand carefully. "You're going to be okay," he whispered. Todd stood quietly nearby, unable to hide his emotions. Neither noticed Summer's fingers twitch slightly. Back on Coronation Street, concern spread rapidly. Residents gathered and the Rovers returned discussing the shocking news. "She's been through so much already," Jenny said sadly. "It's awful," Rita agreed. Everyone hoped for good news, but uncertainty hung heavily over the pub. Those who didn't know Summer particularly well were shaken. She was part of the community. One of their own. And now her future was uncertain. The following morning brought little improvement. Doctors continued running tests while Billy remained by Summer's bedside. He barely slept. Every time a machine beeped differently, his heart jumped. Eventually, a consultant arrived with new information. "We believe we've identified the problem." Billy looked up immediately. "What is it?" The consultant explained that Summer's body had been showing warning signs for days. Unfortunately, the symptoms had worsened rapidly. She became critically ill before receiving treatment. Is she going to survive? The question hung in the air. The doctor paused. "We're doing everything we can." It wasn't the reassurance Billy desperately needed. As word of Summer's condition spread further, friends began arriving at the hospital. Nina brought flowers. Asha sat quietly beside the bed. Even those who struggled to find the right words wanted to show support. At one point, Asha leaned close to Summer. "You need to wake up," she whispered through tears. "We're all waiting for you." Hours passed. Then another day. Summer's condition remained unstable. Doctors fought to keep her alive while loved ones faced an agonizing wait. The atmosphere inside the hospital became increasingly tense. Every update seemed to bring fresh uncertainty. Then came the moment everyone feared. Late one evening, alarms suddenly sounded inside Summer's room. Nurses rushed toward the bed. Doctors followed seconds later. Billy jumped to his feet. "What's happening?" A nurse gently blocked his path. "Please stay outside." The door closed. Billy watched helplessly through the glass as medical staff surrounded Summer. The monitor displayed frantic readings. Doctors issued urgent instructions. For several terrifying minutes, nobody knew whether she would survive. Billy's legs nearly gave way. Todd grabbed his shoulder. "She'll pull through." But his voice lacked confidence. Inside the room, the fight to save Summer's life continued. The entire family waited in agonizing silence. Eventually, the alarms stopped. The room became calmer. Doctors continued working, but the immediate panic appeared to have passed. A consultant emerged shortly afterward. Billy rushed forward. The doctor looked exhausted. "We managed to stabilize her." Relief flooded through the corridor. For the first time in days, Billy felt a tiny spark of hope. "She's okay. She's still extremely ill, but she's fighting." The words meant everything. Summer was still fighting. Over the next 24 hours, small signs of progress began appearing. Her vital signs improved. Her body responded to treatment. Doctors cautiously became more optimistic. Then, on a quiet afternoon, something remarkable happened. Billy was sitting beside her bed reading messages from worried friends when he felt movement. He looked up. Summer's eyelids fluttered. His breath caught instantly. "Summer." Slowly, she opened her eyes. Confused and weak, she looked around the room. Billy burst into tears. "You're awake." Summer tried to speak but struggled. A nurse quickly arrived. The room suddenly filled with activity, but this time it wasn't panic. It was hope. When doctors completed their assessment, they confirmed the news everyone had been praying for. Summer was no longer in immediate danger. Recovery would take time. There would be challenges ahead. But she was alive. Later that evening, friends and family gathered outside her room. Smiles replaced tears. Relief replaced fear. For days they had prepared themselves for the worst. Now they finally had reason to believe in a brighter future. Summer eventually spoke softly. "What happened?" Billy squeezed her hand. "You gave us the biggest scare of our lives." A faint smile appeared on her face. "Sorry." "Don't apologize," Billy replied. "Just focus on getting better." As darkness settled over Weatherfield, the community reflected on how close they had come to losing one of their own. The terrifying ordeal served as a reminder of how quickly life could change. One moment everything seemed normal. The next, a life could hang by a thread. But Summer had survived. Against the odds, she had fought her way back. And while the road to recovery remained long, one thing was certain: she wouldn't face it alone. The people of Coronation Street would be there every step of the way. Because on the cobbles, family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about the people who refuse to give up on you when your life is on the line. And as Summer looked around at the loved ones gathered beside her hospital bed, she knew she had exactly that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Coronation.